potential low floats. When I was looking at low float stocks, I wanted to look at DIT, SEB, or HMG, BDL, MAYS. I was just going through and looking. So when you look at low floats and what's out there, some of these really kind of piqued my interest to check out. With DIT, they're one I was looking at towards 2022 that could definitely get up over that $200 mark. They've definitely been on an incline heading upward and on their trajectory upward. I think right now they have a potential buy-in point where they're kind of in that slump coming out, where if they get above that 178 mark, they could definitely stay above that 178, and that would be their next bottom part to try to get into around there. So I think they're a decent buy-in shape right now. And when you look at them, they definitely have that potential to climb up. They definitely have some repeating patterns going through them, and they date back to 1995. And when you look at them, they definitely have that sustainability being in the industry they are as far as retail, grocery. So when I looked at them, they definitely have room to move up, but they have that potential where they might hold in depending on market and inflation and everything. You never really know where these stocks could head to, but being one of those plays on a low float to cover the shorts, they could definitely be pushed up and be forced to rise up at any given time. So when you look at certain times to buy in, this is one of those where if you get in now before the float's filled and the stock rises up for people covering shorts, you might be able to have a healthy gain on this stock. When I looked at this stock, it definitely has some stuff where I think that it's gonna definitely hit that 200 mark when I look at where it could cross at. SEB, Seaboard Corporation, they were another one I looked at where they've been rising up, but as they've fallen a couple times, I would say above that, around that 2,500 mark is where I'd kind of put a red line on them. But they have that potential to go up over 4,500 if they do. Right now is kind of that point where hovering above that 3,500 mark. That 3,500 mark is probably their new bar, where if you can get in between 3,500 and $4,000, you definitely have some potential. But I think going into 2023, you're going to see the stock be up there around $5,000. So you could have some healthy gains going into the future on this stock. Going into 2022, they'll definitely probably hold above that $4,500 mark. Right now, they're working their way up, and as they work their way up, if they get above 4,000, maybe they'll hold above that for quite a while and maybe not drop down. So this might be that potential buy-in point above, between that 3,500 and 4,000. So this one, being a low float play as well, definitely caught my eye. They have a lot of the same repeating kind of patterns going on to get to their trajectory upward over the last 2 years, and now they're back to where they were, looking pre-pandemic. So when you look at industry, it's fish, livestock, but as stipulations get put on livestock, it definitely comes into play. Maybe it could drive the stock back down. HMG, they're one that, as I went through and looked at their graphs and I kept breaking them down, they have some patterns going to them, and they date back to 1984. I would say that this stock is one that's a safe buy. If it went below the $7 mark and went down there, I would be a little worried and wary on this stock. But holding between 12 and 16, I think you're going to hold and you're going to be able to see the stock rise to 21. And I think going to 21, then it will have some potential on it in the future. So right now, between 12 and 16, I think is a solid buy-in yet on this stock, where if you buy or hold between 12 and 16, you'll be able to see it rise to 21 and definitely up towards the $30 mark here in the future. With HMG, I looked at where if I would probably say their new low would be around that $15 mark, and they might drop down and come back up. But if they keep holding in the trajectory they are, you might be at that low point on them where once they get above 18, maybe they'll hold above that $18 mark. And the thing to look at on them is they always seem to kind of boom up around this Russell 3000 index, and after the June reports and you get into early July, you kind of see that boom on them. So maybe this might be that potential buy-in point on HMG, with it being a low float, that as you go through the end of the year and the beginning of the year, find that key entry point that's a low entry point, enter in, and then ride it until it booms. And looking forward, 5 years at even inflation 3%, you get a 15% gain automatically coming back, plus whatever their quarter reports are. And when you're looking at properties and you start getting into stuff like that, it's definitely one that has potential to play on. BDL is another one that caught my eye, where looking down the road, I would say 17 is kind of your low mark on them, with 25 being that good buy hold range. And I think their buy hold range is still going from 25 to 42, where you'll see this become a $50 stock in the future. So right now, if you're buying in though around $25, I think you'll be sitting okay on this stock. With BDL, definitely looking at 2023, 2024, you can see the stock rising to $50, $75 in the future. It's a stock that goes back to 1984. They've only traveled upwards. So as they keep their trajectory going, it might be a long play out, but looking at 2025, if you hold this stock for a few years, you'll definitely see that increase in gain. So once again, it's all about entry point, and it came up above that $30 mark. So being at 25, this might be that stock to look at on Monday morning when the stock market trends low sometimes before you get into Tuesday and it peaks back up after news reports Monday. With BDL, they're one that I would put a save ×2 on them. You have potential value at least double up going into 2022, 2023.